is a specialist in conflict resolution and at the Conflict Analysis Research Centre at the University of Kent. And she has 25 years of experience in conflict analysis and peace building, and she's worked extensively in conflict regions including Iraq and Somalia.
The first area that I believe trumps having a difference and an impact throughout the world is in sounding a type of death knell for the idea of liberal democracy and civil democracy throughout the world. So you've had cynics for a long time about American democracy and American policy. And we have to say that. We know about double standards, don't we? We know that. But you've also had the talk of human rights and free elections and supporting democracy from below. Now we don't even have that. It's been thrown out. It's being basically trashed. And we see the likes of the elected leader of what used to be called the free world. We can also debate that, but that's how it's been perceived. Shaking hands with some of the worst authoritarian leaders in the world. And we could well look at our own selves in how we're following suit for trade deals and our new global identity, but perhaps that's another evening. We'll see how that one goes. So Duterte, Rodrigo Duterte of the Philippines, self-proclaimed killer of men and women. President Sisi of Egypt, who has imprisoned thousands of dissidents, journalists, and anyone who spoke against him. Erdogan of Turkey, who will have his referendum this Sunday to expand his presidential powers. And the list goes on. That's the first impact. It's almost unbelievable for people who followed American history or American politics. The second thing has already been mentioned, and thank you very much, which is what's being signaled about climate change. Here is a full-scale, wholehearted, red-blooded climate change denier in the White House, who's already moved to pull back a lot of the work Obama did on the Clean Air Act, which would reduce emissions within the United States and work considerably on water and air by requiring industry, by requiring companies to monitor and watch and do the right thing. Well, it's not hopeless. He's doing that internally, and there's a lot of despair. But internationally, well, China will lead on the environment, won't they? It's not as though it's a lost cause. Internally, and this is very interesting, some of the American companies, like Levi Strauss, like Staples, like Hoover, are saying publicly that they will stick to the commitments they made under Obama because they believe in them, because this is something that they see as genuine. And just today, some of the huge trust funds and banks, which we might not really approve of if we're looking at our economic ideals, have also said that they will stick to what Obama proclaimed was correct. But we are dealing with a man who, the second day he was in elected office, instructed the Environmental Protection Agency to delete the phrase climate change from all of its files. Now that's pretty frightening, and I think it's just as well that we know that that happened. This takes us to the third area I think he's going to make a difference and has already had a consequence, and that is to do with women's rights and human rights. Now, we saw during the campaign very distressing images, and we heard distressing phrases and words about relations between men and women, and about women as objects rather than human beings and equal people. That was bad enough. But this global gag rule, it's rather difficult to understand. It started out a while back, not just with this administration, but before Obama. The US had, because of its internal lobbying and the right wing, quite strong regulations on not supporting abortion overseas with their aid money. But the global gag rule withdraws and stops the flow of some $9 billion worldwide through US aid, which supported clinics on reproductive health, on family health, on education for women, on prenatal and infant mortality and reducing it, It's across the board. And it seems almost a retribution or a punishment for women for being women, and women for having children, or wanting to control how many children they have. It's profoundly worrying. This extends to the whole realm of human rights. If you look at the behaviors the Trump administration has already taken in terms of who deserves to have rights and who doesn't. And that's something we'll come back to in just a moment. Now, the third area is in the realm of remilitarization and nuclear weaponry. And this is phenomenally fast work, because I'm not sure, had he even been elected when he said we should broaden or enlarge our nuclear arsenal. I think those were his words. This is stunning language from an American president, not only because of the history of the Non-Proliferation Treaty from 1970, but from more recently in 2010, the START Treaty on reducing strategic missile potential. And I was very pleased to see that at the Global Green Congress in Liverpool, an emergency resolution was passed to support negotiations which are going on now in the General Assembly to ban nuclear weapons, which is ratcheting up the debate again. The debate has not gone away. A lot of countries have boycotted those negotiations. Over 130 are participating. But the new woman representative to the UN said to the media, I think I'm going to misquote her. I should say that to cover myself, because I don't think I've got it quite right. But that I'm a mother and a daughter, etc., and a woman, but I can't support banning nuclear weapons because I believe we must have our safety. Now, that, to me, is quite a big jump. But those are more or less her words as she walked past the demonstrations and the people working for these negotiations. Austria is one of the countries leading on those negotiations. And in terms of remilitarizing, is it some $54 billion? The numbers escape me. He wants to, or perhaps it's much less.
No, it's 54.
He wants to ratchet up defense spending at the same time as cutting down on 19 federal agencies who do civil work, rights work, and education work. Thank you. So we've also seen the very, very recent use of force in Syria. So now we have the United States as a belligerent in the Syrian conflict. Yes, they've been there. Yes, we're there on the sidelines, ostensibly and, well, actively to fight Islamic State. But now the U.S. is right there as one of the combatants by taking the measure that they took. And you may want to come back to that in discussion, I'm not sure. But that's also a very fast development. And the last area I would say this new administration has had consequences for us all in is the production of gross insecurity in the name of security measures. What do I mean by that? I mean that it's in the name of United States security that the Muslim travel ban was put on, causing huge insecurity for families across the U.S. and their relatives internationally about who could travel, who was being blocked, who was caught in an airport somewhere, whose grandmother couldn't get through the time zones, through the guards to come and visit. I mean, it refers to measures like heightened surveillance and now the new laptop computer things where people can't travel, where the Guardian was reporting last week that when you're traveling to the U.S., you should be prepared to give your password so that someone at the gate, one of the gatekeepers in immigration, could check your emails to make sure you're not a security threat. This makes me insecure because travel is bad enough, isn't it? So those are the areas I feel we're already seeing consequences. How's he doing this? First of all, he's playing on a crude nationalism, which is exclusive and belongs only to a few, so that he becomes an elitist project in himself and denies rights and participation to many. Secondly, he's usurping powers, and we've heard a very good example of emergency measures. What was it called? The nuclear option. That's scary. I need a little more water. The very systems that have been there, the rule of law, checks and balances in terms of power, the executive, the judicial, and the other branch, they're all being tramped upon by this man. That's the second way he's doing this. And the third way is almost an abuse of language and communication. How appropriate is it to rule by tweet? How appropriate is it to proclaim decisions on the basis of emotions rather than reasoned argument? How conceivable is it that years of scientific research can be totally dismissed because he feels something differently? This is offensive and highly dangerous for all of us, quite honestly. And the last way he's managing to do this is by trancing the media and the press in a way that honestly hasn't been seen since coming out of Weimar, and I'm quite serious now, the rise of Hitler. Because when you do not tolerate dissent, when you do not tolerate reasoned argument, when you call an informed press the enemy within, we're really far gone. And this is very worrying. Now, I paint a difficult landscape, but it's true, the measures that are being undertaken internally, the resistance people are mounting already, is alive and well, and it will continue to be, and we have to have faith in that. So let's come into this question of what can be done.